This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Yes, hello. This is your host, Harry Wilkinson. And welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. This is the show where we take a look at the days, weeks, events, happenings in the world of politics, happenings in the world of technology, entertainment, sometimes even sports, just everything that we interact with on a daily or weekly basis that comes to us through the various media we are interfacing with more and more. And we take a step back, we take a look at it from a higher perspective. We slow down, which is part of taking that higher perspective. And we take a look at it from the point of view that says there's more to us than this. In fact, it's about looking at these events in the world as illusions, in a way, creations of our own that we create on a higher level, on a metaphysical level. So this perspective postulates the existence of ourselves as beings that are beyond our bodies. Okay, to simplify it for some people who maybe get confused about what I'm actually talking about here. That's the perspective, that we are more than just our bodies. And that at this higher level, we are all connected. We are all one in a way that is similar to, I guess you could relate it to, in a way, the World Wide Web, the Internet. Of our being, this metaphysical level in which we exist, we are one, we are powerful beyond measure, as I believe Marianne Williamson is quoted as saying. And we create these scenarios, these, you could call them virtual reality worlds in which we inhabit. And you can think of the physical body in which we go through our daily mundane, and by mundane I don't mean boring, but just the everyday things that we do that are part of this world. That we create these situations, and we create them to experience things. And on our last show, I talked about the happenings in Charlottesville and how sometimes it's hard to take that higher perspective when you see things like that in the world. But that's when you need it the most. That's when you need the understanding that the higher perspective provides, the understanding that these are not the truth of who and what we really are. And I think that was a powerful message that came through as people focused on these events. And one of the big questions that came to mind is this who we are? So I think the creation of this event, the involvement of people in this event, was part of asking that question: is this who we are? And remember, we create these scenarios to remind us of who and what we really are. Because when we take these personas, these flesh personas, I guess you could call them, you could call them maybe avatars too, that represent us, but are not the truth and totality of who we are, but a sliver of it. So when we interact in these scenarios, we are reminding ourselves, because when we are in these forms, we forget. Or if we start to remember, we also start to doubt. And I think that's part of maybe the game scenario that we've created. Is this forgetting, or is this doubt? Because that makes the experiences much more intense. That's, again, my take on it. Not just mine. I can't call it mine. It's it's an ancient concept and idea. It's just one that I happen to resonate with and find to be truthful. But there are many other authors who explain this, I think, better than I do. But in any case, the question was asked quite often, is this who we are, in looking at the Charlottesville situation? And there are people who were appalled by the behavior of these white supremacists and neo-Nazis who marched in that town 2 weekends ago and spouted vile and hateful words. People were appalled by that, and they pulled back and they pulled away, and they said, this is not who we are. But is it? It may have had the effect for some of holding a distorted mirror up so that people can see how dangerous and terrifying hateful thoughts can be. But that we have lived with these hateful thoughts, with these ignorant thoughts. And in fact, much of our country was built upon these thoughts. So there came an opposite point of view from others, who were talking in the media, to remind us of that, and to say, yes, sadly, this is who we are, or a part of it. And there's truth to that in this scenario. But what I would say is what I always say when I look at these things from the higher perspective. No, this is not who and what we really are. This is part of the illusion. This is part of the game we are playing with ourselves, to experience things that are not the truth and not who we really are. And one of those things is intolerance and hatred and bigotry. There's none of that at the highest level of our beings. We would have no way to experience that unless we created these scenarios so that we can experience those things, remember who and what we are, and return to our source. Periodic reminders, I think, on this level of existence that we've created show up like this. And I've said it about many other major events that happen that are considered to be tragedies. From the plane crashes we experienced a few years ago to the riots regarding police in African American neighborhoods, to the deaths of major celebrities. They galvanize us. They remind us of the truth of who we are. They also may have a message for those of us in the game, if you will. But those are powerful moments. And another powerful moment came last Monday with the eclipses. And again, this is something that galvanized people, that the entire country's attention was placed upon. Obviously, in a much more positive way, people were excited to see the beauty of this event, this powerful event that won't happen for, I guess they're saying, another 100 years. So if you missed it, well, try to hang in there for another 100. But I'm going to talk about eclipses today and what they mean and the power of them, besides just the scientific aspect of it and the beauty of it, what they mean to people. And we're going to talk about the astrological meanings of eclipses. In fact, I heard, well, there's two things involved with this. I happened to be traveling last weekend, which was why I wasn't here doing our regular show. And as I was traveling, I had, I believe it was maybe one of the local radio stations, might have been NPR or something like that, and they had an astrologer on talking about this eclipse that was coming up and what it meant, and the different aspects that it involved. And one of the things that people have talked about is the trajectory of the eclipse. And you really have to be sort of a political wonk to think this way. But they noticed that the trajectory of the eclipse as it traveled from Oregon all the way to the east coast in North Carolina, it was touching all red states. All states that had voted for Trump. So some people find that to be a bit ominous. The other thing that this particular astrologer was saying was that the aspects of this eclipse, this solar eclipse. Now, solar eclipses usually mean endings of things, or the exit of someone. And when it's a solar eclipse, solar usually indicates male. So it's generally about the exit of a male figure. And when it's something this big, it's usually a male figure or more than one who is large on the stage. And this particular radio interviewer was asking, if it related to Trump's astrological aspects, and found that it did. And this astrologer was saying that this may have a very deep effect on the continuance of Mr. Trump as president. And obviously with the things that are happening, you can see the possibility of that happening for sure. The likelihood, I don't know. Astrology is a wonderful tool for guiding and shaping understandings of certain things. I don't find it to be particularly on point a lot of times with specific predictions, although some astrologers do use it to great effect. But I think those astrologers are using more than astrology when they do these predictions. They're using their own power of intuition, ESP ability, if you will, to kind of make those points. But I will talk about what eclipses mean astrologically, and we'll get into that. And I'm also going to, since school is starting, we're going to talk a little bit about, and fall is clearly on its way. We'll talk about some things we can do to protect ourselves from